I thought I would do a quick video on kit list for the spine. I've had a few messages about it and sort of what I found useful, what I would change if I was to do it again. I'm not doing the winter spine 2026 at the minute. I did sign up for the wait list, but I'm still very much on the wait list for the Challenger North. I've got two friends who are doing it. Well, once they got a place, and then it was Mike and Andy, and we were around at Mike's house. He'd just done the Paddy Buckley round, and they were talking about it, and I got pretty jealous. So I joined the wait list. But yeah, as of yet, I'm still very much on the wait list, and I know there's still 2 months to go. It's mid-November. I know there's been some updates to the kit list, but Andy has sent me through the kit list, so I thought I would just basically get my phone out and go through it bit by bit. So I'm pretty sure the only thing I haven't got with me here is the maps, and that is because I don't know where they are. They'll be somewhere in the house, I'll find them. But I thought I'd go through all the mandatory kit list. A few of the other odds and sods that I think are beneficial to take. Whilst they're not necessarily mandatory bits of kit, they are still very useful to have with you. So to start off with the backpack. Again, we've got lots of options with backpacks. You can go as small as sort of a 20 litre pack, which is what some of the faster runners did, or a 25 litre pack, or it very much depends on personal preference. I use this Ultimate Direction Fastpack 30. It was absolutely fantastic really for the event. I thought it worked really well. I could fit everything in it. It was very comfortable on the shoulders. It's got a lot of front storage here as well. So you've got your 2 water bottle pockets. You've then got 2 pockets on each shoulder side here for snacks, extra things you might need, gloves. I often keep some gloves in here. And then you've got a sort of a larger pocket further down where my inhaler still sits. So that was really beneficial. You've got 2 easily to reach side pockets, which I would often store extra water in along the leg. You've got a stuff pocket down the front, which has got plenty of space, and you've also got a zip pocket here, which is what I would often keep sort of chargers or anything. So that's the pack I used. It did work really well. To be honest, there's not a huge amount of difference in size between the 20 and the 30, the Fastpack 20 and the Fastpack 30. In theory, there's 10 litres, but in reality, I think the Fastpack 20 is something like 26 litres and the Fastpack 30 is 31 litres or 32 litres. They also did a Fastpack 40. There was a few of them out on course last year. So really good pack, would recommend it, but there's plenty out there for packs. So next up we've got compass and maps. So compass, I just picked up a silver compass. I think I got it from maybe the Alpkit store or Doors or something. Just a pretty simple compass, nice and simple. The maps I use are the Harvey maps, just the Pennine Way North, Pennine Way South. They worked really well as well. I say worked really well, they stayed in my bag the whole time. Just really quickly as well, it's something we'll come to later on, but that's my red light, which just clipped onto the back of the bag. There's it on, flashing. So GPS device, so last time I took a Garmin map device, which I borrowed off my friend Kathy, who lives in the village, who's also known as the Walltown Fairy. So if you're going through there this year, you'll see Kathy, or you might see Kathy, and if you don't see her, she's probably left some treats out for runners. But I borrowed her Garmin device, that sat on my shoulder, it was really good. I only actually had to use it once, and that was twice, once to get through the kit check, and then the second time was just to double check a bearing when my watch had a small glitch. But in terms of my GPS navigation, which I used for the majority of the race, well in fact for all of the race, was my Garmin Fenix watch. This is the 6X Pro. I put it into a special power mode which I created, which basically turned everything off other than GPS and heart rate, because that's the only data I was really interested in. Yeah, it lasted about sort of 40 to 50 hours per charge, but what I would do is if it was getting to around 20 or 30% charge, I would just pop it on charge in my bag and let it sort of continue to charge up. So just circling back to the bag, I know a lot of people use the Geeky Hiker front pouches or some other brand of front pouch. I didn't really like that. I did try one. I found it bounced around quite a lot when I was running. I know a lot of people do like them, so each to their own, but for me, it wasn't very good. But what I took instead was this Cotopaxi bum bag, and what I did was actually fastened it around my front, like so. Fastened it like so. And that actually was nice and sturdy, it didn't bounce at all really. But basically what I kept in there was some food, and also my chargers in a dry bag, so I could pop my watch off and pop it in there to charge. I could charge my head torch in there during the day whilst I was running. Emergency whistle, nice and simple, just a whistle I got off Amazon. It's a really high pitched one. There is also one on the bag strap, but I just took that as an extra. I actually tied that onto my compass. Eyewear, I bought these ball glasses. As you can tell, They make you go extra fast when you're wearing them. Again, I think they're more for bad weather, snow, etc., or really bad wind. Stayed in the bag. I didn't use them, but were very, it's a safety thing in terms of having them. So I think they were only like $7.99 on Amazon or something like that. They weren't expensive, so something like that would be great. Okay, torch. So the torch I used was the Fenix HM65R-DT. Rolls off the tongue. And it's the one with the boa single strap, not the bit over the top of the head. Just the one I bought. Absolutely fantastic head torch, really, really good. Basically, you've got sort of your main light mode, and then you've got so this is a floodlight, which is more of a yellow light, and then you've got your spotlight, which is your white light. This spotlight is 400 lumens, 800 lumens, 1200 lumens on the 3 modes. And I think this one is something like 50, 400, 800 maybe. That more yellow light is really good if you're in the clouds or the visibility is not as good. Spotlight was the one I used on the lowest power setting on 400 lumens, which was really plenty bright to get you through the night. That would do a full 16-hour shift in the night. I always took a spare battery with me. In fact, I had 2 spare batteries with me at all times, and they were the batteries that you can actually plug in to charge. So they have a small charging port on them, so you don't need to charge the batteries in the head torch. So if I felt that I needed to change the battery, I could change it and plug one into charge whilst I was still moving, which is really handy. Next up, waterproof jacket. So waterproof jacket and waterproof trousers. Couple of options. For the spine, I did not use this. So this is a Montane Via. It's very light, it's only about 90 grams. It's pretty much see-through. It's rated to 15,000 millimeters hydrostatic head. And it is fully waterproof. I've used it on a lot of races where it has rained and it's been great. But I wouldn't use it on the spine, more for the temperature. So whilst it is waterproof, it doesn't offer much in terms of thermal insulation because it is so thin, especially if the wind gets a bit worse. I know the wind can't get through it, but it feels like the wind hits you a bit more when you're wearing it. So I wouldn't wear that. I actually took 2 waterproofs on the spine last year, but this is the only one I ended up wearing. So this is the Montane Phase Light. Now I bought this at the Montane factory store up in Ashington. So actually it is more of it's like a hoodie version. So the quarter zip so this is a quarter zip, but it does pass kit check. It is rated to 1500 millimeters. It's a little bit thicker than the Montane Via. I do also have the Montane Phase, which is a full zip, which is not the light version, which I also took with me in my drop bag just in case the weather got really bad, but I never actually wore it. I only had this one out with me and it was fantastic. I got this from the factory outlet store in Ashington. If you happen to go up there, always go and check it out. This was an item that never went into production, so they sent it out as samples with the quarter zip. This was meant to be about £250, and I think I got it for about £80. So it was a really good deal. There was only a handful of them when I bought it, but yeah, it's probably my favourite waterproof that I own. So, waterproof trousers next. So what I've got here is a pair of Rab Downpour Eco Pants. And they are a Pertex waterproof trousers. Did get a rip in them, they've been professionally repaired. So they are absolutely bomber. They're a little bit on the thicker side, a little bit on the heavier side. But when it comes to leg wear, I'm not a fan of running in leggings. I prefer shorts, I always have done. So I would prefer to wear shorts and a thicker waterproof legging than to wear leggings and a thinner waterproof. Again, each to their own, that's just how I like it. I mean, they're still not heavy. But they've got buttons and zippers so you can get them on easily. You can cinch up the bottom of them. They've got a string to tighten them at the top, so they're nice and secure. Really good waterproof trousers. Warm insulated hat. In a shocking turn of events, I've got another Montane hat again from the factory outlet store. This one is kind of like, I have an Innovate one as well, which is a little thinner, but this has got like a proper fleece lining. So the Innovate one didn't quite pass kit check when I emailed Lindley about it, but this one did. So went for that. It's really nice, fits under a hood. It also fits under a cap, if you like to wear a cap. I like to run in a cap all the time, especially if it's raining, because it keeps the rain off my eyes if I just tip it down a bit more. Gloves. Right, so a couple pairs of gloves. So these are Hestras. They are Hestra gloves. They were about £80. I bought them on Ultralight Outdoor Gear, maybe, website. These are waterproof, windproof, and they are phenomenally warm. I wore these on the early stages of the race last year when we were in the snow. once we got out of the snow, they were often too warm. Stayed with me, but I kept them in my bag the majority of the time. Every now and again I would put them on if my hands were feeling a bit chilly, but to be honest, they're a really good glove, really good winter glove. I also have these, which were a Trekmate's gloves. Again, another waterproof, windproof winter glove. This is the glove that I actually wore for the majority of the spine. Again, fully waterproof, fully windproof, but not quite as insulated as the Hestras. And I bought these as almost like a backup, and these were absolutely fantastic. I wore these going over Shunnerfell in the pissing rain, and my hands were toasty dry and warm the whole way up and down. And then the final glove I took with me was a super lightweight Black Diamond waterproof over mitt. And the only reason I took this was in case the rain was absolutely abysmal and I needed a bit of extra protection. So this is an over mitt, fully waterproof, fully seam sealed, and it weighs, I think, about maybe 15 grams. Socks and spare socks. In terms of socks, I went for an Injinji toe sock, which has been my go-to. I think they're very good at stopping blisters between your toes and around your toes. And I put some of these Deck Shell waterproof trail socks over the top of them. Did they keep my feet completely dry? No, but they certainly kept my feet dry for a number of hours. And when I say a number of hours, you know, when you're thinking between checkpoints, you're 12 to 20 hours between checkpoints. I'd say my feet were dry for at least 10 of those hours. And then once the water did get in, the benefit of these was that my feet still stayed warm. So you might get a little bit of cold seeping through when you go through a river or a big puddle, but then your feet would warm up. Now, if you're not a fan of the toe socks, which I know some people are not, what I would recommend is a normal socks, any normal running socks, so like a Sums or a Kong. I mean, these are just from Kong in the Lake District, but any sort of standard running socks. And the Sums ones, what I would put is these little toe condoms, toe sleeves. It's kind of like a silicone inside, then it's like a soft fabric on the outside, like so. And you can sort of, I mean, I'm using my finger obviously, but you know, you would slide it on, and it's, you know, it kind of protects your toe. That rubs on the outside of there, and it stays nice and sort of fixed to your toe, so it doesn't rotate around, and it keeps your toes really good. I used those on the Seven Valleys Ultra this year, and it was very wet, and I had no blisters at all. They were fantastic. And because of the way they work, you don't need to put them on every toe, so I go for big toe, second toe, fourth toe, and that kind of keeps all of my toes from stopping rubbing. What I would also use is either trench foot, so trail skin trench foot cream, which is like a really thick cream. Get that over your heels, get that between your toes. That with either these or the toe socks is really going to prevent you from getting blisters. Or you can use that, which is Gerwal foot cream, which is again another really thick paste cream. Now, you can get a lot of anti-chafing creams, but what I like about these two, specifically this one, is how thick it is. So it almost goes on more like a paste. It lasts a lot longer basically. So some of the thinner ones, I feel, they tend to be more like a moisturizer, and they kind of soak into your skin eventually, or you know, they rub off onto your socks. So those are the two creams that I would use, and that's my sock choice. And yeah, these are neck warmer, just a standard buff, nothing exciting. Get one, use it, it's good. So you need to have base layers, spare base layers. In terms of base layers, last year I ran mostly like a long sleeve Montane Dart. They're really good. I also had this, which is a Montbell base layer, which is similar to the Dart, but it's a little warmer and a little thicker. That's really good. And I also have this, which is a Patagonia R1 micro fleece base layer. And this I wore quite a bit, especially when it was colder. So I would put this on over the top of my Dart. This was like, so you have to have your base layer, which you're wearing, and a spare base layer. I took this as my spare base layer because I thought it's light and it's very warm, and it has a hood. Alpkit do a very similar one. I know Arc'teryx do a similar one. There's probably loads of brands that do a similar sort of style, where this kind of like micro bubbling, kind of really thin, see-through-ish material. I don't know if you can see through that. Oh, I just burped. My apologies. But it's good to have a couple of options, because you do have your drop bag, so take a couple of options with you and you can chop and change. In terms of your insulated leggings, so these are the one I took, which was my Tug 24 Snowden 100. Basic winter legging, black. I wore them on the first leg and then did not wear them again, just because personally I don't like running in leggings. I feel like I get a bit of chafing. I also have this, which is a Patagonia R1 legging as well. Now, I did take these as well. These stayed in my drop bag. I use these for sleeping in. When I got into the aid stations, because I can just pull my shorts off, pull these on, and then I can get some shut eye. They were really comfortable to sleep in and kept you nice and warm. Insulated jacket. The insulated jacket I took with me on the race, which was okayed by Lindley, because I did email him to check. I took this, which is the Alpkit Morphosis. So it is a insulated windbreaker, and it has like a micropile insulation on the inside. To be completely honest, it was fantastic. I was extremely warm the whole time. I've worn that climbing in the winter. I've worn it running in the winter, mountain biking, all sorts. I wore it on the spine last year. I would definitely take that again. Your other options are going for sort of like a jacket. This is a Fjern synthetic insulated jacket. I think that's about 300 and something grams. I also have an Alpkit jacket, which is a down jacket, which you can't have, but something with sort of those baffle designs. Or you can go for something like the Montane Fireball, I think it's called. So it just depends on how you want to do your layering, as long as it passes kit check. So it needs to be, it needs to have insulation in the arms, it needs to have insulation in the jacket. It also needs to have a full zip. Yeah, it must have a hood. You can't have a gilet, and it can't be thick pile, because obviously the problem with thick pile is if it does get wet, it loses lots of its insulation properties. Next, on to shoes. Now, shoes is a big thing on the spine. There's so many different terrain that you can be covering. There is such a huge amount of running that you're going to be doing. So you need something that's both cushion but also grippy. I know Centurion Running do a fantastic kit video. That's where I actually got a lot of my kit ideas from the first time round. He, I think, recommended that La Sportiva shoe, which had sort of like a built-in gaiter in the zip up. Fantastic shoe. I saw a lot of them. I know a lot of people really like them. My problem is they cost about £200, and I didn't have £200 to spare for a pair of shoes just for one race. So what I did was I bought myself some of these normal Tomias. These are the Tomia ones because they were on offer at the time. They cost me £75 or £85. So they come with a Vibram sole with a 5mm lug, which I figured would be enough, plus the traction aids if I needed them. They were absolutely fantastic. They were really, really good. They've got a nice thick heel on them, well, a nice thick stack on them. I think they were 31 in the heel and 23 in the forefoot, so an 8mm drop. Now, in terms of drop of shoes, I know it's a very talked about thing. If you've got to think, if you're going to be running for 100 plus hours and you're putting all that force through your Achilles, having that extra bit of lift from a slightly higher drop shoe, whilst it might not be beneficial for you day to day, it could be beneficial for you for an extremely long race like the spine, because you're just going to reduce that load on your Achilles tendon and reduce the likelihood of getting any sort of Achilles tendinopathy whilst you're running, and it's going to put less strain through your calves as well. So that's my thoughts on it. Take them or leave them. But in terms of the shoe, I've also been using these throughout winter, and they've got no rips in them. They're really good. They've probably got 400 or 500 miles in them now. Fantastic shoe. They're not waterproof, but I had the waterproof socks on. But they're not a porous material. It's not like a soft fabric. It's like it's like a ripstop kind of material. So the water doesn't pour into it. It sort of seeps. So as long as you're quick, you're not going to get loads and loads of puddles in there, but it also can seep back out. Normal Tomias. I know the Tomia 2s are currently on Sports Show on offer. If I was racing, I'd pick up another pair and just go for, again, getting a nice fresh lug on there. I'm going to do a full review on the Tomia soon and drop that, because I've ticked over 1,100 miles in my other pair, and I think they're a fantastic shoe. Something like that would be great. You've also got those La Sportivas. You've got the Prodigio Pros or Prodigio Logo Pros, whatever they're called. You've got a lot of the Innovate shoes. I know are very popular on spine. People love them. A lot of people go for like half a size up or a size up, or they take spare shoes for their feet to swell. I've never experienced foot swelling. My feet have never really swollen on a race. These are half a size bigger than normal because I had the addition of the waterproof socks. But I wouldn't take a bigger pair of shoes just for my feet to swell. Okay, traction aids. So you've got your super lightweight traction aids and you've got your more aggressive traction aids. Now these cost me about a tenner on Amazon. These were fantastic in the snow. They were absolutely amazing. Quite big sort of spiky bits to go in the ground. But this is what gave me the blisters. If it was a very snowy section at the start again, I would potentially take these still, but I would definitely not wear them for 40 miles like I did last year. What I did was I left them in my bag, and then I picked up these at Hebden Bridge, which are the Yaktrax ones, very lightweight and easily packable traction aid. So Yaktrax is probably what I would take, unless it was a bit snowy, and then I'd take those more aggressive Amazon specials. Okay, sleeping mat, sleeping bag, and bivvy. So my sleep system, essentially. Sleep system's always a bit difficult because you kind of have to make the right choice for yourself. I have this Thermarest Neo Air X Lite, which is what I've used for, I think I actually got this for when I hiked the PCT back in 2017, and it's been going strong ever since. It's a really good sleep mat, so I would take that again. You can get lighter ones that have got lower rating. Some of the checkpoints or places you can sleep don't have beds, some of them do. So for example, when you get to Bellingham, if you want to sleep, you'll need to blow up your own sleeping mat. So I'd rather have something comfortable and warm in that situation. Equally, I didn't plan on sleeping outside. I know some people do plan to sleep outside along the route. And if I needed to sleep outside, I'd rather again have that extra warmth and extra comfort. So this is my sleeping bag, which I bought for the spine, but also for winter camping. It is the Thermarest Hyperion. And that is the 20 degree one, so 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's rated down to about -6. I know for the race you only need it down to 0, but for the extra 100 grams of weight, that still only weighs 520 grams. I'd rather have something that, one, I can use for winter camping in general. 2, if I really needed it and I was in danger, I needed something warm, I had it. And 3, for that extra comfort. If you want to sleep in the Church of Burness, again, that's got no heating. It's a very cold place. I didn't sleep there, but I know a lot of people do sleep there before they hit the last 26 miles of the Cheviot. It's freezing in there. In terms of sleeping bags, of course, you can get the other Thermarest. You can get Mountain Equipment do a good one. I know Alpkit do some good sleeping bags. Sleeping bags, Rab have got a really lightweight one. I think that's like 400 grams. They rate down to 0. There's a plethora you can choose from, but you've just got to make sure you're choosing the right one for you. So bivvy bag, I have this, which is the Montbell. Voila. It is a Montbell bivvy. It is the wide version. Again, it's a very lightweight bivvy. It was about 100 and something grams. I know some people like the Terra Nova Moonlight bivvy, which is again another really good one. I know Alpkit do some good ones as well. What I would definitely suggest is that you make sure that your bivvy fits. So I originally got the standard size one of the Montbell bivvy. And when I put my sleeping pad and sleeping bag inside of it, it was very, very snug, and it essentially compressed the down in my sleeping bag. So it was a bit useless really. So I went for the wide one, much better, much more space. I would just double check. I know you can put your sleeping mat underneath the bivvy, but I'd much rather have it inside for that extra insulation. In terms of for the actual race as well, because this is fully waterproof, I actually put my sleeping bag inside of my bivvy and then put that into my bag. So I didn't have to take an extra dry bag, but it also meant if I did ever need it, I could pull the bivvy out with a sleeping bag in it and I could just get straight in. Okay, the other thing I would take with the sleeping pad is one of these, the Flex Tail. I kept this in my drop bag at all times. I didn't actually take it out with me, but essentially you just turn it on and it inflates the sleeping pad. In terms of mug, I just took a standard sort of metal. Is that metal? Yeah, I think it's metal. Anyway, standard mug, because it has to be non-collapsible, it has to have a handle. And then in terms of a spoon or a spork, I've just got this MSR titanium spoon as well. In terms of stove, because I know the stoves aren't mandatory anymore, if you're still planning on taking a stove, you can either go for something like a titanium pot with a lightweight actual burner, which are, you can get them in for a couple 100 grams, and just taking some windproof matches. Or you can take something like an MSR wind burner. I've had mine for about 8 years now, and it's never let me down. It's very similar to a jet boil, but they really do work in all temperatures, and you can get water boiling if you need a cup of tea. So in terms of water, you need to take 2 litres. So I did have 4 of these. But one of them will be my filter flask, or was my filter flask. So again, you can just filter from streams if needs be with those. Food, try and make sure that you've got a good variety of gels, sweets. Take some sandwiches, take some wraps, take some flapjack. I really like hula hoops. Hula hoops worked really well for me last year. I ate maybe 4 or 5 packets per leg. Took quite a lot of flapjack with me as well. There's always food along the way. The biggest thing with the food is trying to have variation, because if you just go down the route of just gels or just like the same Voom bar or whatever it might be, time and time again, you'll get to a point where you start feeling quite sickly and then you don't want it anymore. And the toilet kit, that's my toilet kit. It's just got some poo bags in, some toilet paper, and a super lightweight ultralight trowel I got off Amazon. I also have some wet ones and a toothbrush and a bowl in there as well, so that's that. I've got my med kit, which is extensive but completely beneficial, so do your med kit properly. I also have a load of these. I bought a big box of them on Amazon. I've used very few of them. They're like 12-hour hand warmers. You just open it, give it a shake, put it into your jacket, your glove, wherever you want it, and it'll keep you warm. What I would often do is I would put them on the palms of my hands, inside my gloves, and it would just keep my hands really nice and warm. Survival bag. I always took a survival blanket with me, a survival bag with me, and the way I would use it is I would open it out, and instead of trying to climb into it, I would put it over my head like a poncho, and I'd rip a little hole in the top, put my head through it and put it on like a poncho, and it's just going to get it on and get it covered, and it's going to keep me warm. Now, a couple of extras that I would take if I was doing it again this year. First up are these Castelli Nano Flex arm warmers. They're absolutely amazing. They can go under a t-shirt, under a base layer, but they massively keep the wind off and keep you so much warmer. 100% would recommend. A cap to go full send is always necessary. That's an idea of some food. Now for the gentlemen amongst us, I would take some of these, some Sax underwear, prevent chafing. When I've spoken to my wife, she seemed to allude to the fact that women don't get the same problem of testicles chafing as men do because they don't have testicles. But essentially what these Sax are is they have this little pouch on the inside, as you can see there, this little pouch, and your gentleman's sausage and accompaniments go into that pouch, and it keeps them nice and away from your legs and prevents any chafing. Poles wise, I would recommend poles personally, like a Z-fold pole. You can attach them to your bag many different ways. They're extendable, but they're really good. I definitely recommend taking some poles because they can just help, especially on the climbs. I also often will put some tape around the handle that you can use in an emergency for blister care, or you can use it for any sort of ailments that might befall you. Or I would, after last year, also take a spare end piece for my Lecky poles because I've now snapped 2 of these end pieces. Both times I've snapped them, it's been going downhill. So the only thing I would suggest as a little tip/trick is to not use your poles going downhill if you can help it. Going down, you're more likely to put it into a hole or step past it, and that's when you can snap a pole. If you can get spare parts, take a spare part. If you can't, take a spare pole. And probably the last bit of gear that I would highly recommend is getting some gaiters. Now these are kind of like dirt gaiters only. They come with Velcro on the back, so you stick a Velcro pad onto your shoe, and essentially they Velcro onto your shoe, and then at the front it hooks over the lace. So if I was to put it on here, I'm going to simulate a leg with my arm here. So your foot's in your shoe, and what you do is you attach the Velcro down there. This hook here just goes onto your bottom lace. So it goes on like that, and this forms a seal around your leg, like so. 2 primary benefits from these is that 1, it stops dirt getting into your shoe. So whilst you still might get water into your shoe and you still might, they might end up getting wet, you're not going to get any of the sediment and the crap that goes with it, which for me is really beneficial because you're less likely to get a blister, and you're also less likely to have that sort of thing that's annoying you in your toes. The second benefit to them, which is I think one of the bigger one, is that it keeps your laces clean and it keeps your laces fastened. I've never had one of these when my laces have come undone underneath it, and I'm not somebody who likes to double knot my laces because I struggle to get them undone, especially when I've got cold hands. So having single laces that are going to be clean and easy to untie is going to be great, because then when you get to a checkpoint, even if everything's caked in mud, you pop this off, your laces are clean, your shoe undoes really nicely, you can get your foot out of it really nicely. Honestly, they're probably one of the most valuable bits of kit that I had on the spine. They're only about a tenner, they're not expensive. You get a lot of people who have the ones with the elastic, which goes underneath the foot. The problem with those, I think, is the amount of miles and the terrain that you're on, that elastic can snap and they can come up. and they're just awfully heavy and cumbersome, whereas these are super light. You can literally just flip them up your leg like a sock to get them on and off, and covering anything from 50 up to 268 miles. At some point you're going to get something in your shoe, but that's going to limit what you get in there, and it's going to make it a lot more comfortable. So I would recommend them for any length of race. The only thing I would say is when you do stick that bit of Velcro on the back of your shoe, like I have here, I would stick it down and then either use some fantastic elastic glue just to get the corners, or super glue just to make sure they're nice and stuck on there, because they do have a tendency sometimes to pull off. This one's obviously peeling a little bit, but this also has done a full spine race. So that's my main ones. Other bits of advice that I can offer is make sure you're organised in the checkpoints. I wasted a huge amount of time in the checkpoints last time. Have your clothes that you want to change into in a separate bag. So say you open your drop bag and you can pull out a dry bag, and you can say in that dry bag have all your change of clothes and all your food ready. Something like that might work for you. Get a system, write it down if you need to, laminate it, stick it on your arm, whatever. The charger I took was something like this, a little white plug charger, and the reason I took one is just because it's got multiple ports on the bottom, so you can just stick 2 plugs in there, 2 USBs in there, and charge nice and quickly for your phone, watch, camera, whatever you want to charge. So yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of it in terms of what I was doing. If I think of anything more, I'll make another video on my camper van this week where I'm going to edit this and then upload it. But if you've got any other questions regarding kit, let me know. Like I said, there's so many options out there and there's so many helpful videos, but I hope this can help some people somewhere along the way.